Good morning and welcome to our commission meeting for March 24th. Notable birthdays today: Peyton Manning, NFL quarterback, actor Jim Parsons, and Meredith Jarko, our assistant administrative officer. So happy birthday. I'm going to call our meeting to order and note for the record that we do have a full quorum of commissioners present today. Before we get started, just a reminder to silence your cell phone, and if you're going to speak, please sign in the back of the room. We need your name for public record. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda is our bills that we pay, personnel actions and abatements, etc., all available for public record down in the auditor's office. Anybody from the public that would like to comment on any item on the consent agenda? All right, commissioners, any comments or anything you want to pull from the consent agenda? If not, I'd look for action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to regular business, we begin with our campus master planning update. Andrew, are you the man in charge? That's what it says on my papers.
Good morning, Andrew Etram with Architecture Incorporated. We've got our team of Architecture Incorporated, HDR, and Tegra Group here this morning to do our first presentation to the Commission for our findings with the Minnehaha County Downtown Campus Master Plan. So agenda for this morning and what we're planning to cover, we're going to review the scope of the master plan that we were hired to perform. We're going to do a quick overview of our master planning process that we've been through over the last 7 or 8 months. And then we're going to focus today on the issues that we identified through our work with the county. We're not going to be talking necessarily about solutions or cost of potential solutions today. That would be for our next presentation. So today we're going to focus on making sure we all understand the issues that we identified through this process. So starting with master plan scope, on the right are a couple of, some verbiage directly from the request for proposal that we responded to. A couple of things that I would highlight. So the county was looking for sound, actionable, and fiscally responsible facilities plan. And then really the duration or the horizon that we were supposed to be exploring is over the next 30 years. On the left-hand side, that image, the blue outline there is the scope of the downtown campus that we were focused on. So it included 8 facilities and excluded the jail. And then the scope also includes the emergency management facility, which is not on the downtown campus. As we go, we're planning to leave time at the end to address any questions that there may be, but please interject if you've got questions as we're going through the presentation. So process, we started with the county back in July of last year. We worked with a smaller master plan committee that we met with monthly to provide updates to and get feedback from. We spent a fair bit of time talking to the different departments, and then also gave fairly regular updates to the building committee throughout the process. So starting last July and working through the end of April is when we plan to publish our final report and submit that to the Commission. So the master plan included a facility condition assessment. So on the left is the description of that scope, again, from the RFP. So we were supposed to look at current structural conditions, compliance with applicable building codes, estimated life expectancy, and really the goal was to identify any major repairs that were needed in the next 5 years or beyond. So we took each of the 9 buildings that were part of the scope and ourselves with structural and mechanical and electrical engineers reviewed those buildings. We looked at existing drawings and we toured those existing buildings and reviewed some of the known items that Mark Krenz has on his upcoming list of maintenance and repair. We summarized those then into the 8 categories you see on the right, from executive summary all the way down to building code and accessibility issues. We used the format that you're seeing here to document each one of these buildings. So there's a report like this for each of the facilities. We are taking those 8 different components that we broke this down into, finding the subcomponents within there, providing a written description of that component, and then also rating things on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being poor and 5 being excellent condition. So we performed this effort on all 9 of the facilities that were part of the scope.
I want to thank you for your time today. Paul Volnar with HDR. We were handling the majority of the master plan as far as the space needs, the projections, and things of that matter. So really this is more about the process. Again, we just want to kind of go back to how we originally started the process with you all. We started out by sending out questionnaires to each department head, making sure that each department head fills those out, and then we circled back, did in-person interviews, and also site walks. So we walked each department, and that really gave us a framework for understanding what space and what needs you guys actually have. As we dug into those, after we created the department profiles provided what critical adjacencies need to be provided. Critical adjacencies are very important, making sure that departments that need to be next to each other are next to each other, and that they're not fragmented. And then looking at any unique space requirements. Obviously, there's definitely some uniqueness to every county and every department, and making sure that you have those met as well. We looked at personnel data. So we looked back 10 years to figure out how many staff you had per department, and then also understanding what those needs are in the future. Department mission, and then we also looked at where the location of each department is. So better understanding which, where's elections, where's public defender, where are they actually physically located. Then we also looked at the space projections. So we looked out 30 years to better understand what your future needs are. So this slide provides just more of a breakdown of what you'd see in the report to identify what the department profiles would look like for each department, looking at the area, the current and emerging impacts, and then also the potential strain and need. The county also provided a survey to the public as well as employees to the campus. I think that was completed back in October. Some of the common themes that we had seen come back on the surveys. Obviously, parking is a big issue. So understanding and kind of really figuring out that piece is definitely something we're looking at for solutions for the future. Long lines for service, that indicates you probably don't have the right amount of space or the proper space for the future or even for today. Administration building, there were some issues, it looks like, with people saying there was issues with the interior, as well as the exterior was just not appealing. Increased green space was definitely something that we saw, and then also the future of the Coliseum.
So the bulk of our time here this morning is we're going to talk about the issues that we identified over the last 7 months. So we're going to hit on 4 main points: the existing buildings, their utilization, condition, or any limitations, or the department space needs, and then storage and parking. So quickly inventorying those facilities that we looked at, we gave a letter designation to each of the 9 facilities, 8 on the downtown campus, and again, emergency management off campus. Here's an inventory then of documenting those facilities' ages, when there was recent work done to that facility, what is its current use, and then documenting its size both in number of floors and also gross square footage of that facility. So starting with utilization, we identified 2 buildings on the downtown campus that we believe are underutilized. The public safety building, which is currently used for facilities, IT, and then just general storage, and the Coliseum, which doesn't serve the county any purpose and is leased. From a condition perspective, there were 2 buildings that we highlighted that through our review of the facility condition assessment, we noted the most significant issues. Those would be the administration building, which has original systems that are now 65 years old, would require major updates for this building to serve the county into the future. So HVAC systems, plumbing, the exterior envelope, and then the electrical system would all need pretty significant upgrades. And the Coliseum there are some structural concerns with the basement, the rubble foundations, and water infiltration into that building. And then lastly, thinking about facilities and how they are able to serve the county now or into the future, and if there are limitations on that portion of the site or that building serving a different purpose in the future. The public safety building is the one that we highlight here. It's got significant limitations with the potential for redevelopment of that space. One, its use for other purposes, as it was a previous jail, and so converting it into different use would be challenging. And then secondly, if the county was looking at utilizing that portion of the site, it is challenging because it's really tied into campus utilities and infrastructure in a significant way. So here is just a quick summary of those things, showing facility age, the condition, whether it works well or functions for its intended purpose, is it utilized, and then is it historic in nature.
So now we want to start hitting on some of the meat of the issues with the existing facility. Clearly, your population here in the county is growing, which is exciting, but it also brings challenges, right? You're in a building right here that is 60 plus years old. It really doesn't have room for flexibility, and you're really at a point where there's not a lot you can do with this specific type of building. It's an odd shape. The issues that Andrew kind of just explained, just in roughly, some of the issues are very challenging for spending money on some of these bigger issues that are coming up with this building. And so looking at the overall picture, this building is going to be a struggle as far as putting money into, is it actually going to be worth it? So that's what we're going to be looking at as far as solutions in the next presentation. A lot of departments currently, they're looking at cannibalizing basically every space they can. They're in closets, they're in meeting rooms, office spaces are basically taking over every piece of this building that it can. Storage is at a minimum, and just overall large meeting space is a struggle. When you have elections going on in this building behind, or in this room behind us, really can't be used for large meeting space. So finding large meeting space for departments to meet and have those meaningful meetings are difficult. There's also issues with public-facing spaces and accessibility downstairs. There's issues where elections, it's pretty tight down there with the department across from them. And if you have like a motorized cart, somebody in a wheelchair, it's difficult to make turns and things like that. So we're going to walk through some of the specific space issues. 70% of the admin building has little to no room to grow within the next 10 years. You're really looking at some of these departments, they're already maxed out. Public defender is one of those departments. They're already fragmented. They have folks at 300 building. They're completely maxed out in a building that doesn't have a floor plate that really matches what their intent to serve is. So that's one example there. And then most of the departments are fully maxed out in their existing space to serve the public. I think Mark with facilities has probably punched about as many holes as he can into the wall to make public counters and availability for the public. We're really at a max, I think, at this point to serve the public in this building. The courthouse entrance, it lacks adequate controlled access for the sheriff to really conduct screenings. It backs up in the morning, it backs up in the afternoon, after lunch. There's long lines. It's really difficult for that group in order for them to perform their job in a quick way in order to get people through security and into their courtrooms. And then the Coliseum and Public Safety Building, we did talk about those already. They're underutilized. They're really at a point where it's just really difficult to figure out how to utilize those buildings for the future. Parking capacities, we did talk about that as well. I mean, really at this point, with future growth of this campus, you probably have one option. The one option is likely to go up with a ramp. You only have so much ground space. You already have parking that's kind of spread out all over the place already. But looking at the future, you're likely going to go up. Records purging, this is another big one. Records, obviously, the county is currently using offsite storage, and they're paying for that currently, which obviously that would be a instant savings to the county if they were able to bring those records back to county-owned property. And then the sheriff's emergency management lacks adequate equipment and general storage. When we toured that facility, they really lacked drive-through space in their garage. They have large equipment. I'm not exactly sure how they can even back that stuff in. It's really tight. All the large general storage they have over there, it's really packed as well. So providing that would be a big advantage to those folks. So the table that you see here provides more of a granular look at each department and their space needs and how immediate they are. We've highlighted in red the departments that have immediate or high need. As you can see, the majority of the folks or the departments in the blue is the admin building, and almost all of them need space immediately. They're out of space. So we looked at the utilization rating, which shows how well they're actually utilizing the space, if it's high, low, or medium. Then we ranked the flexibility of the space. Is it none, low, or medium? And then also the priority space needs. As you can see, auditor election, as well as public advocate, public defender, register of deeds, treasurer, and admin. Common space is all a definite need right away. There were other departments, obviously, that we looked at: Health and Human Services, the museum, and then also the Coliseum. Those needs are obviously low at this point. The only one that was something that was to note was the common storage. The common storage for the campus has a rather high need for large storage. So shifting to the future, we looked at your future needs and what those will be over the next 30 years. How we identified those needs were by looking at standards. So we looked at BOMA, we looked at the Building Owners and Managers Association standards, the U.S. Court Design Guide standards for the courts, and then also the questionnaires and the in-person interviews. Overall, the space needs, this shows what your current to 10-year needs are for admin, courts, and emergency management. The reason why the other departments are not on here is because the needs are less or not needed at all at this point. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to break down the needs currently to 10 years, 10 to 20 years, and then 20 to 30 years. We highlighted the current to 10-year space needs for the courts because it's such a large amount of space that's needed. And this is judged based upon the amount of judges that will be needed over the next 10 years, potentially based upon the current population and what that growth will be. So we benchmarked what the needs will be based upon the current number of judges. You currently have 17 judges for around 208,000 in population. And so what we did is we looked at what your future population would be and calculated the number of judges needed over that period of time, and it would be somewhere around nine judges. Overall, the admin building would be the new construction, and then courts and emergency management would be expansion space. So the key conclusions to what we found during this first part of our study is obviously the county has a huge need for space over the next 10 years. 3 of the facilities are just not viable for future space. That would be the admin, Coliseum, public safety, and then obviously storage and parking needs are definitely considered in our next step in the solutions. Any questions?
Before we go to questions, we're going to take public comment on this agenda item. So if there's anybody from the public that would like to question or comment on anything, it could lead to additional questions from commissioners. So we take public comment first. And, just as a reference, and Commissioner Heise or Benninga could probably refresh our memories. How many months has this been going on? Has it been a year already? Has it been just about a full year that this, and they've been involved in the process as liaisons to the space needs study. So we've all been exposed to it at public meetings, building committee meetings, et cetera. But again, anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? Okay. I guess my first question would be under the courts, under the 10-year space needs. That does not include the public advocate, public defenders, state's attorney. That's just courts on their own.
No, it would include state's attorney, court services, and court security. So
Okay,
that
but
would
not the state's attorney, not the public defender.
It does include the state's attorney as well. The public defender would be in the admin
Okay.
number.
And do we know what public defender, what we're specifically, how that one broke down? Is there something that digs down into the weeds on that?
Yeah, we do have that. It's going to be in the report. I don't have the specific number.
Okay. And the final report will be presented at the end of the month, I think, or
Next month.
April, end of next month, okay. So this is our first look
Correct.
at what the whole process, okay. Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Thanks for being here, Paul. It's nice to meet you in person.
You too.
So I was just curious if you could tell us a little bit more. You already explained in detail, but for the public who's maybe here once or twice a year, can you just dig a little deeper into the systems in the admin building? This is probably where most of our citizens come, and maybe they could benefit from just a little bit more background information about maybe the lifespan of some of the utilities or things like that?
I'll have Andrew take that.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned earlier, the concerns with this building were primarily dealing with the mechanical and electrical systems. The mechanical system, the air handling units are, well, all of the systems, both mechanically and electrically, plumbing, are all are the original systems. They haven't been replaced. So there are concerns with potential plumbing leaks in the plumbing system. The original, or the air handling units are original to the building, and the electrical switchgear is also dated. So the challenge with maintaining those systems, even if they are still currently operating, the challenge is continuing to repair those and having the parts and components to repair those into the future to make sure that when they do have issues, they're able to be put back into service.
So when you say original, like we're talking back in the 60s?
65 years old is
Yeah.
all of that equipment, plumbing lines, mechanical equipment, electrical.
Thank you.
I guess along the same lines, was there an issue with I'm trying to remember when we put lipstick on this building here a few years ago, we looked at windows. What's the issue with the windows? I mean, they're not able to be replaced, or they?
So what we identified, Commissioner, is, that the entire envelope, the skin of the building is original, also 65 years old. Thermally, performance-wise, it performs very poorly. So a cold winter day, if you're next to that exterior wall assembly, it's pretty chilly. We didn't get into exploring the potential or the solution for replacing that skin, but just off the top of my head, it would be a challenging endeavor to try and replace or upgrade that whole skin of the building while the facility is being occupied.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Thank you all for all the work that you've done. I've served on the committee past year with Commissioner Benninga, and we put quite a number of hours into this, and it's not a simple answer. So we're going to need some time, and I think you have to put together a good presentation, and there'll be a good product at the end of it. And I don't mean to jump the gun or anything. I know this is the first of several presentations that we're going to be having. But maybe you could speak to the phased approach that we're most likely going to take, or what's going to be presented in the final product.
Yeah, so what we've spent, the first handful of months was gathering information. So getting a good handle on the existing facilities, doing those departmental questionnaires and interviews. So gathering all that information to start to be able to brainstorm and work with the committee members to come up with potential solutions. Trying to take all those different things into consideration as far as long-term use of all of the property on the downtown campus, trying to understand the viability of the existing facilities into the future, how they might meet current and future needs, all of those things. We understand also then, in that second slide of the presentation today where we talked about the scope, part of that was fiscally responsible solution, providing the county with a plan. And so understanding that we can say that there's all of these space needs and there's these building condition issues that need to be dealt with. If we don't help the county develop a plan that can be implemented and afforded financially, all of this is really a wasted effort. So that's what we've been working on quite a bit the last number of months, is how do we take all those inputs from the first part of the process and come up with a solution that's actually feasible.
Right. Thank you.
So what'll be different at the end of April? What are we going to be looking at when you come back to us?
So when we come back in April, we're going to talk about the couple of options that we've come up with for potential solutions. So looking at how are we meeting these needs of the county over the next 30 years, What are suggestions for a building like this or a building like the public safety building? How do we accommodate that big number that you're seeing there for courts space needs? So we'll be looking at specific solutions on the size and location, potential location of those solutions, and then also presenting the cost and looking at how the cost of those various projects can align with county finances. So the issues we identified today, coming up with and presenting the potential solutions for those next time.
So we got a month to think about the problem. Okay. Okay. Additional questions?
Mr. Chair, not a question as much as a comment, and correct me if I get any of the details wrong, but I just think it's important to remember that the court's needs are really not dictated by us. Like we're doing this planning process now to be able to anticipate the number of judges that the state is going to allow in the Second Circuit, and then correspondingly, we need to provide the building. The county's responsible for providing the building and the space for them, and then also the support staff and all of the additional attorneys that come along with the public defender, the public advocate, the state's attorney's office. So I think it's something that it's important to remember as we're looking at potential growth, that a lot of it is out of our hands, and now is really the time that we need to start planning for it.
Yesterday, the mayor had his State of the City meeting, and I heard that in 8 years, the population of the city and thusly a lot of the county increased by nearly 40,000 people. We're growing by the size of Mitchell every 5 years, just about. In 10 years, yeah, that large growth, and I mean, it's, as Commissioner Weinberg said, we don't get to determine how many judges we need. That's all done by the UJS, Unified Judicial System. We just get to pay for the building that they're in, and then, of course, when we have more judges and more courtrooms, we need more public attorneys and state's attorneys and more jail space. And yeah, when you're growing, unfortunately, not everybody is here for all the best reasons, and we get to deal with the problems that come with growth. So appreciate your time today, gentlemen. We look forward to the solution.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign the bridge improvement grant agreement between Minnehaha County and the South Dakota Department of Transportation for the replacement of structure 50-273-090. Mr. Mars. Good morning, Jacob.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars, Highway Department. January 2nd, we applied for 3 grants through the South Dakota Bridge Improvement Grant Program. The DOT awarded us 2 of those grants. The first one we're looking at is a structure just west of Garrettson on a township gravel road in Edison Township. The grant award was for $436,900, which covers 80% of construction engineering, and then the county is responsible for 20% of those costs. This project scored 57.56 points in their scoring criteria. The lowest scoring project that was awarded points was 56.4 points. So we just squeaked by with enough points to get awarded for this one. So the 2 additional points for our wheel tax got us this particular grant. Looking for a motion to approve this grant. We plan on completing the design, what little needs to be done, and doing construction next year
27.
in 2027. Yep.
Public comment on this agenda item. All right, Commission, turn it over to action.
I'd make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Motion a second, call the roll.
Benega?
Aye.
Kipley?
Aye.
Heisey?
Aye.
Blindberg?
Aye.
Karski?
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign the bridge improvement grant agreement between Minnehaha County and South Dakota Department of Transportation for the rehabilitation of structure 50-226-175. Jacob.
Jacob Mars, Highway Department again. This is a preservation project, also awarded through the South Dakota Big Grant process. It's also an 80-20 grant where the state pays for 80%, the county pays for 20%. This structure is located between the Bluffs and Brandon itself over the Big Sioux River. It's our longest structure in the county, I think 392 feet long. And the work that this grant is providing us to do would be a bridge deck overlay, approach slabs, and then guardrail upgrades on the structure as well.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commissioners,
Make a motion to approve with a big thank you for the grant. And that's quite a win for the county.
Second.
motion is second. Call the roll, please.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Heisey,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on, consider a petition to compromise County Aid Lien DPNO 46902. Sandy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sandy Kinder with the Commission Office. Before you today is a petition to compromise and release the lien 46902 in full upon payment of $10,000. You may recall this application was before you back in January. The balance at that time was $20,000 and the applicant was offering to pay $2,000. That request was denied. He was encouraged to establish a payment history, which he has done. He's paid $1,500 towards the balance, reducing it down to $18,500. His income and debts haven't changed much. However, he is in the process of selling a property in Grant County, which is the basis of this request. His financial information was provided in the memo, and he is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. This is a compromise of a lien, so we give the requester that wants the compromise done to address the commission. You don't have to approach the podium. You don't have to give your name. If you'd just like to stand where you are, however you're comfortable.
Commissioners, I've upgraded my request for the compromise to 50% upon your prior guidance and also made $1,500 worth of payments and have full intention of buying property in Minnehaha and becoming a tax contributing citizen going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Commissioners, any questions for the petitioner and/or comments?
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Please.
It sounds like we made $1,500 worth of payments, which is kind of part of the spirit of the last conversation to make that in good faith. And then are we compromising for an additional $10,000?
That was the request, yes.
I'm making
Okay.
a payment of $10,000 and requesting a reduction of $8,500. So I'm offering $11,500 altogether against a $20,000 lien.
Okay, because so technically you're offering, in total, you'll have paid more than 50%. I just wanted to clarify that we were on the same page. And
Yes, sir.
so you will make an additional, in addition to the $1,500 you have paid in whatever increments those were, you are going to make a one-time payment of $10,000 and we compromise the whole balance.
Yes.
Just setting the terms for that we all understand what's at issue. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, thank you.
I would be supportive of this. I think he kind of took into mind what we gave him feedback on and lived up to his end of the bargain of making some payments and actually meeting us more than halfway with over 50%. So I'd be supportive. I'll make that motion to compromise the lien contingent on the $10,000 payment.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any additional comments? I guess my only comment would be we can either accept this or we have a lien that's been on the books for 25 years. So I'm in favor of the offer and removing the lien and letting this individual move forward with owning property in Minnehaha County. Call the roll.
Kipley,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Heisey,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. Treasurer's Office Annual Presentation. Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Swanson, Minnehaha County Treasurer. papers out here. Well, first of all, I do appreciate the commissioner's approval of adding an accountant position to their office this year. The cost will be mostly offset by leaving a tax and license assistant position unfilled for the remainder of the year, although I would plan to fill that position again in 2027. Leaving it unfilled this year, coupled with other potential salary savings, may avoid the need for a 2026 budget supplement. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And so we will move on to the actual presentation. So anyway, good morning. It's been an interesting year in the treasurer's office. Last February, we launched our new 605 Drive program. We still have a fair amount of issues that need to be ironed out. The state continues updates frequently, so it is important for our staff to stay on top of that new information given. It has become a bit more of a challenge to contact our state with this new program in person like we used to. We used to be able to get on the phone and ask a question, but now they're requesting that we put in tickets. And a ticket, basically you've got an issue, you put your ticket in, and it can take a week or two for that person, the state, to get back to us with an answer. And then when we try to call the state, you might be 45th in the line. So we're trying to, it's gotten better over this last year, but it's still been a challenge and something we're just dealing with on a daily basis, but we're working through it. We are supposed to start scanning sometime here in the near future. Scanners are all set up. They've been set up for a while. They wanted to start after the first of the year. I don't know what the holdup is with the state, but they say with this scanning, it will help making processing titles faster and more efficient, as well with helping with paper storage for the state. We have not gotten the training to go ahead with this part of the 605 Drive yet, so I will keep you ahead of that when we get that. We have had our newly appointed assistant treasurer for a year now. It's going well. But it has been a challenge. Again, I'm going back to that 605 Drive all the time. It's been a challenge with the new 605 Drive balancing end of the operation. Auditor's office has been wonderful with helping us, but they've got their issues that they need to deal with too. So, but it has gotten better, but we still continue to have issues the way the state is recording balances, credits, and refunds. The new 605 Drive system also requires more time and more steps in comparison to the old system too. So we're finding that a whole transaction process does take a bit longer, not a lot longer, but a bit longer. But once the scanning starts, it is going to take a little bit more time. So it's all going to be a learn as you go type of situation. But the nice thing to know is that the whole state struggles with it. It's not just Minnehaha County, if that's, it makes me feel better anyway. As stated in my report last year, we did take one of our accounting positions and develop that into an accounting assistant. That proved to be a good move. We continue to work on cross-training as time allows. We always seem to have someone out on FMLA or someone is sick, so it's handy to have that. But it does shuffle our office around because we have to get things done. We're time sensitive down there, so we shuffle a lot down there. Our 3 part-time positions continue to work out splendidly. I thank you again for that, for approving that a few years back. They cover our lunch hours during that heaviest traffic. We still have 2 windows that open at 7:30 in the morning, and then those 2 windows are able to close at 4:30 in the afternoon. I am noticing, though, that morning line is starting to get a little bit longer, so we are limiting what we can really do. We'll do registrations and maybe 1 title, because I don't want people to come in at 7:30 and then they're waiting till 8 o'clock to get up to a window. So we're trying to limit what we can do during that half-hour time. We do continue to have our 5 virtual PMB addresses and then the 7 physical PMB locations. Minnehaha serviced 12,033 PMB registrations and 2,433 address boxes in 2025. The PMB transactions continue to be a full-time position for 3 of our staff. I did not put numbers up for our PMB because I had noticed last year, the numbers that I get these numbers from the state. The number that they gave me this year was considerably lower than last year's. And so I called the state and I questioned them. I said, why, this doesn't look right. I mean, we still have a lot of work we're doing. It doesn't feel like we've slowed down at all. And what happened, again, with the new 605 Drive, they now have accurate numbers. So what they were giving me before was, I think, just basically a guess. And so now you've got accurate numbers starting from here on out, just to let you know. So we're good there. The state implemented an out-of-state resident fee, or title fee, I should say, of $100 back in 2024. There were so many questions on what an out-of-state resident was that the state needed to actually give a definition of what an out-of-state resident was. So on July 1st, 2025, the out-of-state resident definition was clarified. And so a resident is considered one who has a South Dakota driver's license with a PMB address. An out-of-state resident is clarified as one who has a PMB but no South Dakota driver's license. And you'd be glad to know that Minnehaha County did not skip a beat on that one. We knew what an out-of-state and what an in-state resident was. So we didn't have to worry about that. With this clarification now, we are able to charge the out-of-state resident who does not hold a South Dakota driver's license. The county keeps half. Our portion of that fee for 2025 was $22,600, and there is a slide for that. Last fall, we increased our wheel tax from $4 to $5 for heavy trucks weighing over 6,000 pounds and having up to 12 tires. 100% of that wheel tax stays in the county. Overall, the number of titles that we processed, next slide, was increased by 11.73% from 24 to 25. Our dealership titles continued to be steady. May and June were our busiest months, and that took place shortly after the new 605 drive went into effect. Registrations took a small drop last year. They went down about 0.3, but that is because last year we did trailers, not vehicles and trucks like we did the year before. So, but mail-in registrations are still popular, and as some choose not to stand in line and wait. Back in 2021, the county treasurer's office started charging $25 per mail-in title fee. This applies to both in-state and out-of-state. We had a 9.62 increase, in 2025, and the amount we collected there was $76,914. I don't know, can you not see that? Okay. Courtesy letters or notices of intent letters have been sent to those who are delinquent with their 2021 property taxes. We've sent about 100 letters out or notices of intent. This year, the format was changed on those delinquent tax notices. Rather than just sending out the current year that you were late, we are now sending out a statement that has all the past years that you were delinquent, which has proved to be positive because now we are able to, we've seen an uptick in people coming and paying their taxes. They didn't realize that they were that far behind. We were able to collect on the 2020 delinquent taxes in the amount of $677,000 last year. And this year so far, we've collected $260,000 on the 2021 delinquent parcels. So that makes me happy. We're getting these people to pay on their late taxes, so we don't have to have a sale. And then for a tax deed sale, the customer has to be delinquent 4 years in property taxes. If it isn't paid in full, a tax deed will be taken and the property gets sold. And there's a method to that also. We will be starting our collection of April property taxes next month, so we are getting geared up for that, although we are getting quite a few that have already come in. Notice the increase of number of property tax parcels making payments over the last few years. We are currently now in the thick of the elderly tax freeze. You can see by the PowerPoint the growth of this program from 21 all the way to 20, up to 26 right now. Just the amount they have changed, as far as your income limit, your property valuation, which has brought in quite a few more people this year. We have already, so far, got 1,050 applicants that qualify. We figure we still have about 277 people that qualified last year that haven't been in yet. So we only have, 7, 8 days left? 5, 6, I don't know. It's all a blur. But we've got a lot to do yet, so I can tell you I am tired. I'm tired. Mm-hmm. But if you also notice the refund, the city also, with anybody who is on this elderly tax program, lives within the city limits, is not delinquent on property taxes, they also qualify now for a refund from the city. And that is up there. I thought this next slide was kind of interesting because I'm comparing us to Lincoln County, the number of applicants and from each county and the total number of refunds. So Minnehaha stays very busy. So that was kind of an interesting PowerPoint to look at. I was able to get down to I had an opportunity to speak at City Hall and also was on Kello promoting this program. And then I also was able to hire 4 variable part-time help to assist with this program, and it has been very helpful. They've picked up on the process very fast, and they're quite busy back there right now, so. NSF checks. They continue to be managed, and the office has done well at keeping those to a minimum. We are currently sitting at about $4,800 in NSF checks. Customers receive letters and phone calls regarding their NSF, letting them know that they have 10 days to pay. If not, it goes to the sheriff's office, and then if we are unable to collect through the county, we can put a hold on that motor vehicle account until that's paid off. And again, we do have a list. Our staff knows that when they take checks, we do have a list of people who have outstanding, NSF checks that they got to make sure that that person isn't on the list, obviously. And then, but once that person is off, then they can give us checks again. So phone calls are always steady. We do have an increase again of 7.06%. Questions with the new 605, questions on the elderly tax freeze really probably ate up most of our phone calls this last year. So, but we have about 5 people who are always on the phone. So we're able to get those phone calls answered. And then our kiosks continue to be very popular. There's 5 locations. The Get and Go on the east side, the 2 Hy-Vee stores, one on 37th and one in Minnesota and 49th and Louise. And then the downstairs in our administration building, and then on 1501 South Highland, the new building out on the east side of town. And if you notice, 49th and Louise is the one that always brings in the most business. So those are very popular and very helpful until they run out of stickers and they have to come. It's always the last of the month and they come to our office. So, but it happens. It's the way it goes. So we currently have 22 full-time employees, 4 part-time, and then 4 variable hour part-time employees who work with the elderly tax freeze only. Without the number of staff we currently have, we would not be able to make this office operate the way it does now. But we are also seeing growth of the county increasing the number of taxpayers that make their way to our office. Even with one person gone, it does affect the rest of the staff as someone needs to fill in to get that work done. The staff is great on filling in and helping out where needed. That staff also carries a lot of responsibility as they've had to learn a lot this last year, and the policies keep changing on them nonstop. So we just ask for grace when it comes to people dealing with our staff because they've gone through a lot this last year. I feel very fortunate to have the staff that I do have. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Public comment on this agenda item. Chris, just based on the traffic that's going back and forth behind you, that was a great idea, utilizing that space. And
It's been very helpful.
yeah, so congratulations on that, and thank you for, thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Or the office, for that matter, so. Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Chair. Hey, good morning, Chris. How long do citizens have to apply for elderly property tax freeze, and how are those numbers comparing to years in the past? Or people waiting until the last possible time to do it, or people getting in a timely manner?
They have until April 1st. We really encourage them to be coming in by March 31st because we have to give our report to equalization within a few days. But everybody does this. We wait till the last minute to come in. It's just human nature. So, but we're geared up for that. We know that's going to happen.
I know the state last year increased the thresholds of income and the valuation of the house or property. Do you find that the general public is aware of that change, that information? Is that brought in a host of new people to apply?
It's brought in a lot of new people. And I can tell you from the numbers that we have right now, that 1,050 that I just told you, 368 of those people are new. So those are new applicants. But we've also, out of that 1,050 that do qualify, I can almost guarantee you that we've sent half of that many away that do not qualify because they make too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to kind of follow up too, it's a little bit different topic, but you would mention that once an individual is delinquent or hasn't paid in full after 4 years on their property taxes, there could be a forced sale on the property. How many roughly? I don't know if you have an exact number or an idea.
I don't have a rough number yet. We're just getting those letters of intents out right now. When those letters of intents go out, we get a lot of people that come in to pay. I'll know more here with probably in about a month, 6 weeks what that number is going to be. But then again, when we have those numbers and we reach out to those people and we tell them that there's a possibility of a sale, we end up having very few people that actually don't pay.
And when someone applies to get the elderly disabled city rebate, does that go through your office or does the city of Sioux Falls
We
handle that?
share those applications with the city, only the people that live in the city limits, okay? We share that with the city. The city determines how much, up to $500, what those people get, yep. And I asked, when I was down there giving that little talk about a month, well, I don't know, a few weeks ago anyway, I asked him how long he thought they'd be doing that, and he thought it'd be in perpetuity, so I'm guessing it's gonna continue to go on for a while now.
Now, does that include people that are partially disabled and fully disabled?
Yep,
Both?
so if you are 65 or older, I can just give you, if you wanna know what some of the recommend.
Yeah, if you had an
Okay, so if you're
idea.
65 years or older, you own your own home and you've been a resident, these are the new guidelines for this year. So you've owned property in the state of South Dakota for at least 5 years, but you've been a South Dakota resident for 5 years. You've lived in your home for 200 days the previous year. Your house is assessed under the 514,000. For a single income person, it's 56,000 some odd dollars, and then the multiple income is 66,885. So those are the guidelines they have to go off of. So that's our new guidelines, which changed a little bit from last year, so,
Great, thank you.
yep.
Commissioner Benega.
Chris, is there anything that we can do as a commission to help you with your frustrations on the training of the software? Because it seems like that's got to be a huge bottleneck and extra work for you right now.
You know, I wish I knew an answer to that. I just know that I get threads from other counties that are in the same situation that we are. And it's just a level of frustration. I guess, I hope time makes it better, but I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did.
Can you give us, frankly, the contact on that information that we might be able to touch base with?
I sure can.
The people running for elections as governors and everything else in the state, we ought to get their information and give them a little bit of education on some of the hassles. This isn't the first time that we've had to change software programs over the years and with no training and figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on, Auditor's Office Annual Presentation. Morning, Leah.
Good morning, Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. So to add to your additional notable birthdays, my brother's birthday is today as well, so I just wanted to say that. And he turned 65, that good old age. So the Auditor's Office has quite a variety of responsibilities, and I feel like we're one of the most diverse offices in the county. Oh, there we go. All right. Our department is responsible for many of the accounting functions. We maintain many documents, clerk and record minutes for meetings. We make sure property tax funds are allocated to different entities. We facilitate the budget process and make sure we record debt or make debt payments, we oversee grants, and we conduct elections and much more. So that's just a general overview. For accounting management, most of our staff work in various accounting roles. We have 6 employees that are part of the accounting team, in addition to the budget and finance officer and our property tax administrator, who all are also both accountants. Our accounting team handles accounts payable, Liens, so we process liens, but we don't record liens. That's done in the Register of Deeds, but we also take payments on liens. We do payroll, we track capital assets, distribute funds, reconcile accounts, and administration of purchasing cards. And we also, one thing that I didn't put on there is the petty cash funds, so we also keep track of those. All of the, so everything that's outgoing payments in the county run through our office. And I just updated this slide from last year. You can see that 2025 is slightly down from 24. A reason for that really is just that we, in 24 was an election year, so we had more payments going out to election workers because we do that through our accounts payable system. So some highlights in the accounting world. As Chris mentioned, our office was able to assist the treasurer's office. So due to changes that they had with 605 Drive and things not reconciling, and then also the retirement of their assistant treasurer, we were able to provide support with reconciliation assistance. So Renee in our office did a lot of that work. She also is very important to our elections, and so this year we will not be able to help as much in that area. But our staff was very happy to help when we could, so the timing of that need was very appropriate since it was a non-election year. Liens, that was another big focus in our office during 25 because we had time to really dig into the process and collaborate with other departments such as Register of Deeds, IT, courts, public defender, and public advocate. We continue to see a delay in receiving documents from public defender and public advocate, and keeping the flow of lienable items is important so that the county can provide timely and accurate information. So this also improves our ability to collect liens. So just an update on that, we recently received all of 2025 from the Public Defender's Office, and then we've only received up to January of 25 from Public Advocate. So we encourage them to keep up with that, but it's really not our responsibility to make them get it to us. They need to take care of that themselves. So last year I had shared that lien recovery was likely down due to the housing market being down. And this slide will indicate a little bit of that. So as the housing market has improved, you can see a slight uptick in lien payments because people are becoming more aware of where, if they have a lien, they're maybe buying or selling a house, and that helps to speed up that process of collection. So we collected about 50,000 more in 2025 than we did in 2024. So payroll administration is a very important responsibility of our department because everybody wants to get paid. Our payroll accountant not only makes sure that all employees are paid, but she also does the tax reporting, reconciles, and pays the payroll liabilities, issues the year-end W-2s, and she works closely with human resources and our IT department to make sure all of those processes are done. Personnel costs have continued to increase, and you can see in these in this chart right here where my pointer is at, that the increase has been fairly consistent. The compensation study wasn't really implemented until the end of 2025, so I think you'll see a larger increase in 26 when we update this chart for 26. And most of that impact happened in December of 25. The other chart here I just updated for W-2s that are issued, that is slightly down. So starting in 24, we had more workers that exceeded a payment of $600 for election workers. So in '24, those W-2 issues, or the W-2s that were issued were increased. So now they're slightly down in '25. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry, so. Capital assets. Our capital assets accountant works closely with our accounting manager and budget and finance officer. Together, they cover the general accounting functions. This includes tracking capital assets, preparing financial statements, reconciling accounts, calculating and recording insurance cost, making journal entries, calculating and paying out pass-through funds, and preparing draw requests for construction and capital improvements. Our department also spends a great deal of time taking funds in and sending them out. So we don't get to keep a lot of the money that comes into the county. It gets sent out to other entities. So our commission recorder, most of you know her duties here of being, of recording minutes and helping with conducting meetings. Additional duties include bid openings, processing various liquor licenses, legal publications, recording, tracking, and electronically filing minutes, resolutions, ordinances, and also managing public record requests. An added duty in '25 was the records retention policy. So that was adopted in 2025. And once that was adopted, Kim and I worked on some aspects that could be shared with other departments. And so Kim conducted training for all the departments to better understand the policy and the process of records destruction and retention. So our office, in particular, we had a lot of historical documents. We were able to transfer 82 documents to the South Dakota State Historical Society. We also transferred some historical horse breeding documents to the museum. And in 2026, we plan to have a portion of our historical minute books scanned. This will be a two-phase project. We'll do some of them in '26 and some of that in '27. This is just a chart that I had last year and I updated, shows the uptick in the public records request. Note that in '24, we started tracking the number of requests also for the sheriff's department, and so that number's been growing. So property tax administration. So our property tax administrator is responsible for completing all property tax calculations and reports for the county taxing entities, so schools, cities, townships, and the county, and submitting that information to the Department of Revenue to ensure compliance with state law. She also communicates quite often with the citizens and the title companies. She is responsible for abatement calculations, adjustments, and the flow of abatements. The charts at the top of this page, so these two charts kind of go together. This is a new one that I inserted this year of what we've collected and then what retains in the county or stays within the county. So the light blue at the top is what stays in the county, and then this is a number breakdown of that. So as you can see, in 2021, we were just under 18% of what was retained in the county, and now we're just over 19%. So we kind of hover in that 19% range of what stays within the counties. The bottom portion of this, you can just see that abatements continue to increase, and the abatements as of the 16th of March, that's going to be this top line right here. That's at 225 already. And we still have time to go on that. All right, so budget and finance management. You are probably more familiar with that. Susan is a great asset to the county with budget and finance management. She's responsible for our department is responsible for financial and budgetary programs of the entire county. Annual audit, financial reports, and supplements to the budget, grant management, and assistance to the departments. In 26, one highlight coming up, and we talked about this at the last commission meeting, is the potential refinance of the 2017 jail expansion bonds. And we have received a draft resolution for that, and when Eric gets back, we will be reviewing that. But so the remaining balance on the jail expansion bonds is $33,460,000. And the interest rate currently is more favorable now than it was when those bonds were taken. So over the remaining 12 years, the county could save approximately $560,000 if the expansion bonds are refinanced, depending on where the rates are at that time. And now we get into the meat. Election management. So election management, I feel like we didn't really get a break in 25 because we were so busy with a lot of changes that would be coming up this year. But our department is noticing that this topic is very ever-changing too. So just daily, like this morning, I got another email about a change that's occurring, and I'll try to explain that later. With the passage of the 2025 legislative bill known as HB 1130, that's the one where the cities and schools can combine their elections with us, but they have to also hold them on a June or November election date. So that has kept us very busy. In addition, we do the primary and general election. We support municipal and school district elections every year, even if they don't combine with us. We maintain precinct boundaries, and we do annual review of those to see if we need to make adjustments. Voter registration list maintenance, that's something that we do every odd year, and I have a slide coming up that will show the the ups and downs in that. We assist citizens with voter registration and absentee requests on a daily basis. We also have recounts and post-election audits that occur after the elections. And then this one I already talked about a bit. But the biggest impact of the HB 1130 will be having so many more ballot styles this time. And so we've had to think about where are we going to put all those ballots? Because you know when you come up here to vote in-person absentee, we have to have every ballot style in the room. And so we've been working on what is that going to look like for organization and coming up with ideas. Speaking of that, when I get to the bills, there's a section in there, but one of the bills that didn't pass this year was one to implement or let counties use a ballot on demand system. In our county, the way we were thinking of that is we already know currently that we may not have ballots in time for the start of in-person absentee voting because of the short window of time that every auditor's office in the state has with getting ballots. And so that was one reason why that was brought forward to legislation, but that did not pass. So we plan to keep everybody informed if there are any delays. So 2026 elections. This list is a little fluid sometimes because as a city or a school, they may plan to have an election, but if there's no candidates running in those elections, then they may drop off. But currently, this is our list of the ones that will be combined with us or have a separate election on the same day. I expect the November one to continue to grow as we get more information. Some significant dates here would be the So we have the June election, which is on June 2nd, the primary, and the voter registration deadline for that one is May 18th at 5 p.m. Absentee voting hopefully will begin on April 17th. And then I have the dates over here for the November election, similar dates. October 19th is the deadline for registering, and absentee September 18th. This is the slide I mentioned where, as we do list maintenance, you can see these dips going up and down. But you can also see that there's a continual growth in the number of registered voters that we have in our county. So this will continue to peak upwards as we get closer to the November election, because the downward turn here was when we do list maintenance. If a voter hasn't voted in 2 federal election cycles and they haven't updated their voter registration, they will go into an inactive status. And so this is just the active status. A voter that is inactive can still vote. We just need to have them update their voter registration. So there was, again, a lot of legislation this year that was election related. This is just a very small list, but these are all bills that have passed. And when I prepared this, I did mention if they had been signed yet. There is a 15-day window that if a bill is passed and the governor hasn't signed it, it still becomes law. And so some of these are drawing very close to that. Some significant ones are these that I've listed. So SB 114 provides for the publication of cast vote records. That bill has been signed. There are some stipulations in that about redacting certain records. And so I'm in the process, I think next week I'll be visiting with a company to get a cost on what that would look like. There are some outside companies that specialize in helping counties with that publication of the cast vote records, or we have the option of trying to do that ourselves. So I'm looking into that currently. SB 151 requires publication of the results. This is for precinct committee men and women. In the past, only if there was an election, so if there were 2 people running for that position, did it end up on the Secretary of State's website with election results. And now this bill requires the Secretary of State's office to display all of those results. We've always kept track of this, so this isn't going to be a big change for our office. SB 142 just amends the requirements for filing certain campaign finance disclosure statements. That bill, the way it would impact county candidates is everybody that still has an open statement of organization would need to file every year. So you would have to file the pre-primary, pre-general, and the year-end every year, whereas previously, if you weren't actively running, you didn't have to file those documents. In a way, that's going to simplify things because then you don't have to wonder, do I need to file or not file? So you just have to file all the time. SB 175, we expect this to be signed by the governor's office, and this is one where I just got an email this morning from the Secretary of State's office with some updates on this, because this one has an emergency clause. This requires that an individual provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Since people can register to vote at different entities, we are not really sure what the direction's going to be on this. My concern with this bill is that if we get 100 or 200 voter registration forms in the mail, which happened just before the general election in ¡24, that we would then need to reach out to all of those people and get that documentation. So we are waiting on guidance for that. A good thing that did happen in '25 legislation regarding this, though, is anyone that gets a driver's license after July 1st of '25 will already have an indication on the back of their driver's license if they are a citizen. So that was a bill that passed and is already being implemented. So that's a very convenient way for us to see proof of citizenship on the driver's license. Many people assume that the star on the front of the driver's license is for citizenship, but it is not. That just means it's a real ID and that they provided documentation that they're here legally if they're not a citizen. So that does not help us with citizenship verification. SB 177, this was a very complicated bill to get passed. It's taken several years, and all it really does is just state that we recommend and we have to provide black ink pens for people to mark their optical scan ballot. And the reason for that is because the tabulators read those pens better. So I don't know why this had to be so complicated, but we finally got it passed. SB 171, that's a bill that I was very active in working on for specifically our county because of the volume of absentee ballots that we get and the amount of time that it takes to process them. Again, that bill is passed. It's not signed yet, but we hope to see that one signed soon. Otherwise, it's just about to the point where it will be law anyway. I'll talk a little bit about that too. I'll leave that right there. So what that bill will do for us is, well, a couple things that I have planned for the primary election. I do expect very high turnout. And so for any precinct that has active voters that are 1,000 or more registered active voters, we're going to have 5 workers at those precincts. The ones that are under that would have 3. Hoping and expecting the governor to sign SB 171, that would permit the absentee board to begin a portion of the processing of absentee ballots on the Monday during regular business hours the Monday prior to the election. This bill also permits the board to use the list of confirmed voters from total vote in place of handwriting the names into the poll list. That will save a very large amount of time. So both of these changes would facilitate a favorable impact in getting our absentee ballots counted more timely. I will tell you, I was honestly hesitant to even try to push this bill through because we have such a large volume of absentee ballots that I think the legislature needs to also address something to reduce that volume. It's like people prefer to vote absentee. And so I felt like this bill provided us with a solution for that. But absentee balloting takes the office a lot more time, or takes the absentee board a lot more time to process than if a person votes on election day, just because of the envelopes and going through all of that process. I won't get into all the details because I know this is getting very long. So, departmental goals. So last year, these were my goals, and I felt like we did a very good job of reaching these. A couple areas I'll touch on would be cross-training for continuing to cross-train in some of the commission recorder duties, and then also working on solutions for cross-training with property tax administration. It's very difficult to ask staff that are much lower level in pay to cross-train for a higher level position. And so that's something that we are working towards. Another area here that we are still working on or continuing to work on would just be our election storage area and making sure that's very organized. And then our historical documents I mentioned earlier, that will be continuing to scan those items. Okay, so we thought our tabulation equipment was going to get a firmware update. In January, the State Board of Elections certified upgraded firmware to version 6500 for the tabulators. There was a plan to have our tabulation equipment upgraded prior to the June election. And then just a few days ago, on the 18th of March, all the auditors were informed that the certification would not be valid until there's a change in administrative rule. So that's where I'm talking about the fluid changes that keep occurring. So there's a delay in that change. We haven't heard from ES&S about the maintenance that they're supposed to come and do on the tabulation, or the tabulators and the express votes. We're still waiting to hear about that. And I know in probably the end of '24 and early in '25, I visited with Commissioner Karski about some thoughts on making some equipment changes. That has been put on hold because of these unknown, or the uncertainty in getting our equipment updated. I don't think it's wise, we do have some HAVA money, but I don't think it's wise to make changes in purchasing new equipment or doing any of that until we can purchase equipment that can actually be certified up to like the 2.0 standards. I think that would be money not well spent, because the current equipment that we have cannot be upgraded to the 2.0 standards. A few election dates, I don't have these on the slide, but we have some election-related dates that I just want to mention. May 31st is the deadline for filing statewide, or I'm sorry, March 31st is the deadline for filing statewide petitions, legislative petitions, and county petitions. Today is actually the deadline for city and school petitions. April 6th will be our drawing for candidate positions on the ballot. April 28th is the deadline for filing petitions as an independent candidate. May 18th would be the due date for pre-primary campaign finance reports, so any of you that need to do that filing. June 8th is our canvass and our drawing for the post-election audit. June 10th to the 24th would be when we conduct our post-election audit. And then June 23rd is a date, the city of Sioux Falls is very likely going to have a runoff just based on the number of candidates that they have for mayor. And so we will be busy with that runoff election because we will be running that one as well. And, tax deed sale. I know Chris touched on that. We are working with the treasurer's office and the state's attorney's office. There are, one thing that she didn't mention, there's 6 remnant lots, we call them. They're known as the Pearson lots. They're just little pieces of land that the county owns, and nothing can be done with those. And so we do need to have a tax deed sale for that. And we're looking at doing that after the June election, so probably in July. And there will be more to come on that. So I will stop there and see if you have questions or.
Auditor, public comment on this presentation. Anybody want to address the commission regarding what we just were given? Okay. Commissioners, any questions of the auditor?
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman, so I'll
Heisey?
get things started out here. Morning, Leah.
Good morning.
Great presentation. There's been a lot of talk in the public sphere, state and local level, about TIFs, and it's my understanding that the county administers or manages any TIFs that are, or TIF districts that are created by, say, a municipality. Is there a dollar figure or a number of employees that it costs the county to manage those districts? If you could guess, or
I would not have a guess on that right now. I know Chris Lilla has a very nice spreadsheet of TIF districts. And so I think equalization works with that a lot. There's not a lot of management for us to do with the TIFs in our office. So I think that would be something we'd have to dig into.
okay, thank you.
We, recently, there's been some publicity. We had a county down south that lost a lot of money on fraudulent invoice, and I know of a school district in North Dakota that lost $8 million on a new construction project from fraudulent invoices. I'm just curious about safeguards. What do you do? What can we do to keep our money going where it's supposed to go?
Yeah, good question, because both of those counties, and a lot of our counties, even the really small ones, are really looking, or they're using ACH payments. I know we've talked about that here at this county a couple times, and we tend to not go in that direction. While it would be nice to not do paper checks, the ACH payments, one big problem with that is fraud. People are targeted and information is sent over. So we do get emails periodically where people are trying to commit fraud and they want us to change even payroll direct deposit accounts, a lot of that. We have policies in place that we don't accept that information via email. If we get some type of email that we think is legitimate, we would want to reach out to the vendor and verify the information directly. So that's one policy that I've shared with our staff, is that we need to make sure that these changes are legitimate. As far as payroll direct deposit, we don't accept emails even from a legitimate employee. If they want to make a change, they have to go into the system and update that information in their account, where they have to log in and do that. So we're trying to, keep an eye on that. We're going to continue to hold off on pursuing ACH payments, just because once that file gets transmitted to the bank and the money is out, you've just lost your money. So if it goes to the wrong account, you're not going to probably get it back. We did recently in our office, with us and the treasurer's office both, we caught some checks that were being created fraudulently and cashed at a couple places. I think that is an ongoing investigation with the sheriff's department. And I don't know what the status of that is right now, but my signature and Chris's signatures were being forged on these checks, and the checks themselves were not legitimate. And so we try to keep an eye on every bit of that.
All righty, thank you. Additional questions, comments?
One more question, Leah. Perhaps you could speak to the legislative change. I believe those individuals with PMB boxes, or those who are not residents, according to the new definition, they'll be receiving federal ballots and not ballots for local elections. Maybe you could expound on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, right before I came up, I got an email about that, another fluid change that's occurring. So we were directed by the Secretary of State's office, as a person, if a person newly registers after January 1st, and they're using a PMB address or a commercial mail receiving address, and they can't provide us with an actual residence or describe where they live in the state, they would be entered as a federal-only voter. But it also impacts a voter that's previously registered that's applying or turning in an absentee ballot request. If they too have an address and they're not able to explain to us where they live or give us a residential address, they also get coded as a federal-only voter. What we were directed to do up until this morning was create federal-only splits for those ballots, so that they would get a different ballot. And now we've just been directed to change all of that. So now we have to go back into all of those voters that have been marked with that split, take them back to regular split, regular precinct, and mark them a different way as a federal voter. So I don't know what that looks like right now, but apparently something in total vote and the way that ballots are going to get generated will impact that change. So every day we're getting an update on something that changes our course of action.
Yeah, one thing has always kind of concerned me as a candidate running for office, and looking at the voter rolls, you can almost pick a hotel, motel in town at random and find hundreds of individuals registered at that address, not to speak of empty lots, electrical substations, and so on with registered voters at that property. I think the legislature passed a law that would allow county auditors to And maybe you can explain the process of sending the postcard or a piece of mail to verify whether they live there or not. And is that process actively occurring?
So that's not exactly, I think you might be thinking of the challenge law. So there is a challenge process. I got just one challenge this year, and now the deadline has passed for this election. But we can get challenges based on residency at this point. But the challenge process also requires documentation. So I had a call yesterday from a lady that said, so-and-so lives in Larchwood, Iowa. He's using an address in South Dakota to avoid taxes. What can we do? I really can't do anything about that unless somebody challenges that voter and provides documentation that he truly doesn't live there. But it goes a step further too. He has to be registered in another state and voting in another state. So I don't really have the authority to just change someone's registration. We can mail, we would, end up mailing something to that person if that person was challenged. But we're very limited to be able to remove people off the voter rolls, even with the challenge process.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leah.
Yes.
Moving on, the Auditor's Office Annual Presentation. Yeah, we did auditor. We're going to go on to the Register of Deeds. Sorry, Alicia.
No, you're fine. Alicia Luther, Minnehaha County Register of Deeds. I'm excited to present to you guys for the first time today, so I'll try to make this brief. So the Register of Deeds office has had a busy year. I started in June, and it's been exciting to learn about the office in more detail and to understand all of the different things that we come into contact with as an office. Our team handles a lot of people's major life events, so anything from the birth of their children to marriages to deaths to buying houses to selling houses. So it's been an exciting process. And we'll talk through that here as we keep going. So with the Register of Deeds office, our team consists of 11 full-time employees currently, and that also includes the Register of Deeds elected position. In addition to that, we recently were approved to have a variable hour position, which is 23 hours a week, added to our team, which thank you for that. That is hugely beneficial to us currently. With our positions, we have them divided out into categories. So we have people who help a lot with our front counter, our vital records, taking documents that people bring in for recording to our office. And we also have our real estate division that handles all of the various documents that are recorded with our office. We also do a lot with processing of liens, and so that's another category that we have staff assigned to as well. As a department overview, for vital records, we issue birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses. We work with burial permits and military discharge records as well. With real estate, it's a variety of documents, more than I think people realize. But we handle all deeds, plats that come in, mortgages, leases, so on and so forth. I'm not going to list all of them, but you can read all of those that we do handle. With the liens and lien filings, that was kind of a surprising thing for me when I came in. Just seeing the sheer number of liens that we do record as an office. We work a lot with the auditor's office to get that accomplished, and I appreciate all of their efforts on that. I'll speak a little bit more later about some different things that we've done together with them to try to improve that process, and Leah did touch on some of that as well. And then other filings such as fictitious business names and UCC filings as well. For our vital records, we had a busy 2025, and so I did want to provide some information just on the last 5 years. As you can see, in 2025, we did have an increase in the number of birth certificates that we did issue. Our death certificates are staying similar in number to previous years. Marriage certificates were up just a little bit. And marriage licenses were down just a tad from last year. We did see an increase in the number of burial permits that have been recorded with our office this year. And we do have somebody assigned to that position, or to entering all of those as they are brought into our office. We also handle the military discharges as well. So overall, we processed just over 27,000 vital records. So a substantial number, and a lot of individuals coming to our office for assistance with that. Real estate recordings, I again gave the 5-year breakout of that. In 2021, just for back history, that's when our market was a little different for real estate, and the mortgage rates were exceptional, and people were excited and buying houses and refinancing. But we did see that in 2025, we are increasing now with the number of documents that we are seeing for real estate recordings. And so it was a busy year for us. As you can see, the mortgage documents that we took in did increase a little bit from 23 and 24. Again, with plats too, we do have a lot of development in our community, in our area. And so with that becomes, we have a lot of surveyors that are coming into our office, a lot of different developments that are going on. So overall, for real estate, we did almost 25,000 real estate documents recordings for the year. So a substantial number again. For liens, so liens, we do record all of the liens for the county, and so that will include the county aid liens, all of the public defender, public advocate, court-appointed attorneys, mechanics liens, just a wide variety. And it keeps us very busy in entering those into our system. As Leah had mentioned, we've been working with IT, also with Tom in the commission office, and really trying to brainstorm on ways that we can improve this process and receiving those liens to record. And I think we're making good strides with that, and I look forward to seeing improvements going forward with that as well to make that more efficient. So overall for 2025, for the productivity recap, the copies provided, as you'll see, that was a large increase this year. What that entails is we do have a mailbox available on our website where people can request documents from our office that includes a wide variety of documents that they're asking for. It can be title companies that are reaching out to us that are not local. It is different attorneys reaching out because they're working on putting together documents for individuals that are going to file some deeds or title transfers, that kind of thing. And so we've seen a large uptick in that. We also have implemented ways to capture some of that data in more detail too and break that out for you guys so you'll have that next year with what those requests look like, who they're coming from, and how often, and that kind of thing. Pages scanned. We scan all of our documents into our system so that we have electronic files. We're trying to save some space for some things. And so scanning includes all of those real estate documents that we do record, and also all of the liens that we are recording as well. And so that does take quite an extensive amount of time. And then I just recapped kind of those vital records, real estate recordings, liens, and then the rejection letters. I wanted to include that as well because we do receive a substantial amount of documents for recording that are mortgage related or real estate related. And our office has to go through each of those individually and examine them, make sure that we have correct, full legal descriptions. All the information is on the document that needs to be documented for us to legally be able to record it. And when we can't, we reach out to different individuals and let them know what was a concern with the document and why we can't record it this time and what needs to be fixed. So then just a total recap at the end there. Annual revenues, I did include the last 5 years on this as well, just to kind of show where we're at from what was budgeted to what our actuals were. And so we did take in additional revenue this last year over what was budgeted. So that's a win, and we're pretty excited about that as well. And then with the revenue highlights, just wanted to put a quick recap between 24 and 25 of the increases. I do want to note that as I was looking at this morning, these numbers are different than what is listed on there. And so for 2024, it's actually 46,284, and for 2025, it's 48,244. So I don't know, too many numbers going through my mind at the time, and so I apologize for that, but I wanted to make that correction. And so that was a 4% increase. I did want to mention just the fee ratios. So part of collecting fees in our office, we do share some of those fees with the state, and they will go to our MMP fund or to other funding sources, such as the domestic abuse shelters. And so with that, the MMP fund has been a significant importance to us because we are able to use some of those funds to purchase things such as the plat cabinets that we use to store all of the plats that we receive. And those cabinets are not extremely affordable, so it's nice to be able to have a fund that we can use to cover that cost. And we also can use that to help with modernization and scanning of our documents. So we do have a gal that works with us to scan old mortgage books and old deed books into our system electronically as well. And that fund is able to cover that cost for us. And so this is just a short breakout of those fees that we charge and what goes to the Register of Deeds MNP fund, and then what is remitted to the state to the state MNP fund as well. So since coming into the position in June, some of the initiatives that we did have over these past few months have been software and technology has been huge. And so I believe the last Register of Deeds did go through with you guys the implementation of our Doc Pro system, where we are able to receipt into a new system. It's been a full year of that utilization for the system. With that, having been through it for a year now, we've learned some things. And so we've made some adjustments in the system, and we're continuing to try to make some improvements with that as well, and hammer out some hiccups that we've experienced and just improve the functionality overall. And so we'll be meeting with individuals from the DocPro team as well, just to kind of walk through some of those options. But with that, I think what we found is that there was a position eliminated, I think, back in 24, and it took effect in 25, thinking that going to the new system would ease our burden or save some time and efforts. But what we found is that duties were just kind of shifted from one spot to another. And so we still do need that position, which we'll get to a little bit later. But the system overall works really well for us, and it's easy to use and user-friendly for the most part. So we're excited about that. We do have a burial permit software that is courtesy of our IT department, so kudos to them. They've been fabulous to work with since my start, and they actually created our new burial permit software for us, and have been wonderful to work with and make enhancements to that. One of the things with the burial permit software is that the public is able to search that software as well. That's public record, and so this system is going to be a little bit easier for people to search, and it moved us away from AS400, which is extremely exciting, and so we are completely away from using AS400 as a department. And in addition, we have a lien software that IT has put together for us, and they've even made some enhancements on that as we've been meeting with them. And that offers additional reporting that we can pull from that, and just offers a little bit more user-friendly means for us to enter those. We also implemented a correspondence software that IT developed. With those rejection letters that we send out, obviously that's quite a few over the year, and so a lot of them are the same sorts of concerns, and so it just made sense to have something where we can click on a button and it already auto-populates into that letter for us. And so that does save a little bit of time and makes it more efficient. We continue to work on our modernization and preservation of our data. If you haven't been down to our office, we welcome you. It's open to the public. Our vault is exciting, especially if you're into history. We have documents dating back to the 1800s, and so we just want to make sure that we're preserving those to the best of our ability. Again, we walk through the lean process review. And then we've implemented some new data tracking measures. I kind of highlighted a little bit of that with discussing how we're tracking the requests that we're getting from outside individuals for documents and copies and things like that. We're just trying to keep a better handle on how many phone calls we're getting, how our work is distributed, so that we know going forward with the growth of the community what we may need for staffing or for coverage of different tasks and things like that our department covers. When I came into the role, it was important for me to understand each individual that works on the team and then to learn more about responsibilities. And we did make some adjustments to the tasks that people were assigned based on experience and kind of what their passion was, and it's really worked out well for us. I can't say enough about the team that I work with every single day. We have, went through some different challenges where we've been short. We did have some people retire after 40 plus years in recent years, and so with them, they took a lot of knowledge, and our team has really pulled together, and it's just a lot of collaboration. And again, I can't say enough about them. They do such a fabulous job, and they're extremely passionate about their roles. So for 2026, we're going to continue to work on our retention and archiving of documents. We're working on our storage contract that we have for off-site storage as well. For staffing, I had mentioned that we did add that variable hour position, which has been extremely helpful. And in 2027, I am going to be bringing forward a request to bring back the 12th position that had been eliminated. After living without that position for this last year, it's important that we bring it back, especially when you see the numbers of what we're processing and handling in our office. We need that position. And in honesty, they have from 2000 till the position was eliminated, they had 12 positions. And so if you look back, that's over 20 years without adding staff. And with the population growth, I don't feel that we should be eliminating. We probably need to be adding instead. So new state vital record software. We will be getting a new software program for our state vital records in July, and they've already started sending out trainings for us, so excited about that. The communication has actually been really good with the state on our system for the new software, so excited to see what that will entail. And then we'll continue to review our software programs and public access to our software and the documents that we provide. One of the main things that we focus on is keeping people's records safe. We're dealing with people, their homes, and we want to make sure that that data is protected. And I know there's a lot of individuals in our community that are concerned about, people having access to that. And so one of the things that, we offer is that currently we're not online with all of our records, and there's a reason for that. And I think it does help protect our community as a whole from some fraudulent activities. And then we're going to continue to review our processes internally and our procedures and just how we do things. We've been working as a team to just improve efficiency overall and continue to work with other departments within the county and in surrounding communities as well. And then also, we've just had a good relationship so far with everybody here in the admin building that we work with. So continue to build those relationships and do some outreach in our community as well, working with surveyors and the title companies and things like that. So wanted to also remind everyone that we do have public access. So if people are interested in the information that we record in our office. We do have access to the public. We have computers in our vault with a variety of software programs that people can utilize to do research. It can be a busy place at times because we have a lot of title companies. They'll come in every day. We have attorneys that come in. We have researchers that come in, surveyors. And so it's always bustling down there. So stop in anytime and visit us and we'll show you around. So turn it over to you guys for questions.
All right, thank you, Alicia. Moving on to public comment for this agenda item. Anybody from the public that would like to comment on the Register of Deeds annual presentation? All right. Commissioners, questions for the Register of Deeds? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Moving on, consider a motion to declare 4 hours of holiday pay for benefits eligible employees on April 3rd, 2026. Tom Greco.
Good morning, Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. So as the title of this implies, effectively it would provide for a closure of county offices at noon on April 3rd. I do want to point out that the state and unified judicial system will be closed on the 3rd and the 6th. We don't necessarily follow their cue when there are these sort of mid-year announced closures, but on occasion we can take advantage of them. I do want to remind the Commission that as part of the compensation and benefits study, it was recommended to award what amounts to a floating holiday per year as part of our benefits package. So our ability to plan for this is fairly limited because when we close, if those other organizations are open, we will obviously have people still working to support that, but when they do close, it gives us an opportunity to take a look and use that opportunity to recognize the hard work of employees and give them a little time off, particularly on that holiday weekend. So subject to your questions, that's all I have.
I'm going to point out that this isn't Tom's or Carrie's idea. This is my idea. I brought this to them several weeks ago during one of our leadership meetings, just based on the floating holiday. I think recognition of this date, or just a half a day instead of a full day, is appropriate. One of the largest Christian holidays in the free world. And I think as a kid growing up, it was always Friday, Good Friday afternoon just seemed to be the day off. So I did bring this forward. Public comment on this agenda item.
Gary Meyer, I'm going to ask that you quit recklessly spending our taxpayer money. I noticed that Mr. Greco's one of the reasons was that it's less than $15,000 cost. As is $15,000 is chump change. How many taxpayers would consider $15,000 chump change? And I was also curious how he came up with that amount. $15,000 to run an entire county with thousands of employees for $15,000? So I FOIA'd the county for an estimated cost of a one-day payroll. The answer I received was approximately $161,000 for a full day, and another $27,000 for costs beyond the normal payroll. So if you divide that one-day payroll in half, it gives you $80,000 for a half a day. And you take the cost of the additional overtime for essential personnel, you add another $13,427. Those two figures in my book come up to be $94,000. A far cry from $15,000. I find Mr. Greco's cost analysis deceitful, if not downright dishonest. Dean, you and Commissioner Bender were adamant that all elected officials knew the pay and benefits before running for office. So therefore, the county would make no exceptions beyond county policy. Do the employees of the county not know how many holidays they will get before accepting a job? Mr. Greco said that the extra holidays awarded at Christmas were a one-time deal. Here we are, 3 months later, throwing in another holiday. What's next? The Friday before Memorial Day? Veterans Day is on a Wednesday. Are we going to get a half a day off before and a whole day off after? Dean, you gave yourself a 10% raise. The rest of you commissioners gave yourself an 11% raise this year. Jen, you gave yourself a 14% raise. I believe every one of you had on your campaign material that you were conservatives. How is that conservative? You've got an event going on in the next room over here that people are applying for tax relief. and yet there is none. You approved a $1.6 million building that was classified as shell space because nobody had a need for it. I believe there was a $90 million TIF to a Chinese-owned company, Smithfield. Every day you shut down is one more day the taxpayers are denied access to county services. The cost of payroll is not the only cost when you shut down an office. Any for-profit business knows there are other costs involved. And like I said, you deny all the county taxpayers access to this building every time you shut down. They have vacation time.
Anybody else for public comment on this agenda item? All right, commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for action.
Mr. Chair, if I would, I'm asked some clarifications from Mr. Greco. Would this half-day off that we're looking at, would this include all county employees or just certain departments? Or is the treasurer's office, register of deeds, auditor's office going to be closed that half-day?
Yes, it would be for benefits eligible employees, so yes.
And when it comes to the $15,000 estimate, I understand that a lot of our employees are salaried and they're getting paid regardless. Do you have an idea of how many are salaried versus per hour?
That I could not provide to you. Carrie's here, she may have that information, but I do want to clarify that the $15,000 is an addition, and it's reflective. We pulled the numbers from the President's Day holiday and used that as a way to calculate that cost and halved it. So $15,000, yes.
And I know we've had some discussion about this in the past and offering up at least one holiday a year. Kind of looking forward, I think last year we gave a holiday to the employees on Christmas, and now we're looking at doing so on Easter. Is there a history within the county of giving holiday on the Easter weekend, or is this something that's new?
The answer is, at least in recent history, no. But we did not kind of approach it from the standpoint of looking at a floating holiday throughout the year. However, over the last 6 years or so, we have taken advantage of certain opportunities to award time off. And I will say, typically, it's been around Christmas time.
Is it possible to hypothetically have a half day without holiday pay? Is there any logistical or other issues with that idea?
I guess I don't follow your question.
Yeah, say we close down the county offices at, I assume, noon, and send employees home without paying them for the rest of the day that they're not working.
We do have a 40-hour work week, so I would think the answer to that question is no.
All right. Okay.
One of the reasons I brought this forward was the opportunity, as in the past, with Christmas being on a Thursday and the next day with schedules and so forth. It was just, as an employer, one of the greatest benefits I can give to my employees is a little bit of time off. It improves morale, it makes everybody happier to come to work, and yeah, I think it's a great benefit. It's not without cost, but it's a very low cost compared to other things that can be done. Other comments? Commissioner Benega.
Tom, does this have any effect on our contract negotiations that have been completed?
No, it
Excuse
does
me,
not.
sorry. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll just comment that this seems consistent with our comp study goal of a floating holiday, so I know we kind of have to hold in abeyance because it seems like the state and the court system kind of run our campus in a big deal, in a big portion. So we have to kind of pivot to them rather than posting this at the beginning of the year. We can't anticipate what the state's going to do. But I would note that our attrition rate or rate of losing employees has been improving. So I think the things we're doing tactically to maintain and recruit good employees and this is consistent with it. So I think you'll always have some chatter from the far corners, but I think we're doing the right thing here, and I trust your judgment, Carrie's judgment, Tom's judgment. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair,
I have a motion and need a second,
I would like to second with a comment, if I may.
please.
Commissioner Kipley stole some of my points, but I think the cost of turnover was part of the reason for these decisions. And so as much as we all know that it costs money to have that time off, our staff is our, I would say, most valuable asset. And when we have turnover, because we ask a lot of our employees, it costs us significantly more. So it's a tough pill to swallow from our position, but I do feel like our staff is worth the investment, and I think that's the justification for having the compensation study done, to be able to determine where we could do better to maintain the workforce that we employ.
And
So-
if I may just
Please.
make one more comment and maybe also a question. I see that Christmas this year is going to be on a Friday. And it's a question directed towards Mr. Greco again. Are we planning on, or is there anything set in stone yet of putting a holiday on the 24th, which is a Thursday, or the following
There's
Monday?
not, but presently, county policy is that that Thursday, given the way the holidays land, would be a half-day already
Okay, and that's sort of by default.
by policy.
Yep.
Yep.
And I see the wisdom of having a flexible holiday or vacation pay that we could, set throughout the year. And there's a strong argument that it does improve retention. And we do lose a lot of money when good people that have been around for a while leave us, or even new recruits. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this, just my own personal experience. I've worked quite a number of jobs since I was a teenager, and not one of those jobs was I ever paid not to work. And I'd venture to guess that a majority of taxpayers don't have that privilege either. So I'll be voting no on this.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Kipley.
Aye.
Lineberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Nay.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. We're now at the opportunity for public comment. Again, if you comment on any agenda item or for public comment, we ask that you sign in the back of the room. You have 5 minutes. We take a total of 30. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Meyer, Minnehaha County. Talking about elections again. The Board of Elections has approved for counties to go with ESNS equipment certified to the 6.5.0.0. Leah alluded to that. However, there is no certificate yet on file with the Secretary of State for this ESNS voting system 6.5.00. So the counties are now being told that even if you have purchased this new ESNS equipment, do not use it. Well, why? It is because it's not certified. It is not in compliance. And South Dakota Canvassing let them know it was not in compliance. So the Board of Elections, under the leadership of the Secretary of State, is saying the 6.5.0.0 is certified to the 2015 standards. But according to the EAC, the Elections Assistance Commission, that would be incorrect. The EAC certificate says it is certified to the Voluntary Voting Standards Guidelines of 1.0, which is to the 2005 standard. So if you look at this document, what I have highlighted in pink, whoops, excuse me, wrong one.
what I have highlighted in yellow, not pink, this is for the 6.5.0.0. Says right up here, is certified to the 2005 standards, not to the 2015 standards that the Secretary of State is touting about. Look at the certificate and ask the auditor in your county what version of the VVSG they are currently using. It is the 6.1.1.0, which on the EAC certificate, it says is in conformance with the VVSG 1.0, which is, again, the 2005 version. It says it right up here in the little circle. In 2021, the Secretary of State and Board of Elections adopted the change that these machines were in compliance with the 2015 standards. However, it states right on the certificate that that is false. So the bottom line is, these machines have been out of compliance since 2021. All of the elections processed using this equipment have been processed on equipment out of compliance, which makes them uncertifiable and illegal. And it gets even better, because these machines have been purchased with HAVA money, HAVA, Help America Vote Act money, which is federal money. When you agree to the use of federal funds, you agree to comply by the rules, and those rules are made by the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission. So the EAC was formed to make voluntary voting system guidelines. These guidelines are voluntary, but when you use HAVA money, you agree to follow the guidelines, and those guidelines require the use of certified equipment. South Dakota adopted the EAC guidelines into law, so they are no longer voluntary, they are now law. So if you use the federal money, you promise to use that money to purchase and use certified equipment. So we have been conditioned our whole life to follow laws. We renew our driver's license when it expires, we renew our license plates, we abide by the speed limits, we wear seatbelts, we pay property taxes if we owe property. The list goes on and on. So why aren't you following the law as it relates to our elections? When you sign on the dotted line to purchase this equipment, or you sign off on the canvassing of the vote of the elections, that equipment and those elections are not legal. So with the 2026 election coming up, there is no equipment that is in conformance with the EAC standards. You are kind of left in a conundrum. The only legal way to count the ballots for the 2026 election is by hand. So your state's attorneys know all this I'm saying to be true. So you better help your auditor find those volunteers to hand count, or you will be running yet another illegal election. And I learned this in law class, that negligence is no defense.
Really, Joe? My name is Gary Meyer. Dean, I'm disappointed in you and the rest of you commissioners that you can allow Commissioner Kipley to treat people that stand up here with such disrespect. The name calling, the inferences, it's disgusting, and you allow it, Dean.
Penny Baybridge, Minnehaha County. Again, I come not expecting to speak, and then I do anyway, but I did sign just in case I did. I was just puzzled because I was reading the document she had up there, and as she was talking, and then it disappeared, and I put up the other one from before. I think when people are speaking, their paper should be out there, so it's following what they're saying. And I know sometimes mistakes happen, but whatever, I just thought that was odd that her document disappeared, and we couldn't finish reading it. Thank you.
All right, County Commissioner liaison reports. Anybody have anything they'd like to follow up on?
Mr. Chair, I can lead off with planning and zoning. Last night we had 3 separate meetings, technically one with joint jurisdiction with Del Rapids, joint jurisdiction with Sioux Falls, and then the regular county meeting in all 3 meetings, we addressed a zoning text amendment to update fees. So the last time our fee structure for filing different permits and conditional use permits, et cetera, with the planning office was 2005. So factoring in inflation and other comparison to City of Sioux Falls, Lincoln County, Pennington County, we passed a text amendment in the 2 joint jurisdiction areas and in the county area to update fees. So that will come to the full county commission body and those joint councils. We also, for Sioux Falls, they also had their master plan for, I think they call it Shape Sioux Falls 2050. We're in Vision 2045. So we're both looking out 25, 30 years into the future and trying to plan together. So that is actually going to need to be approved by a joint meeting of Lincoln County, Minnehaha County, and City of Sioux Falls to cover all of the elements there of the Sioux Falls master plan. And then final item of note, we had a conditional use permit that we recommended a denial related to a cell phone tower being put up between Brandon and Valley Springs. So that one had some interesting arguments on both sides. There's a private airport nearby, and so I think we were a little bit confused last night on what the FAA's role in that cell phone tower is, and if we need to put limitations on it, or if the FAA would step in. So there was some controversy there that I'm just putting my colleagues on notice that we might get an appeal on that decision. But that is all to report for now. But yeah, without those various joint bodies meeting, expect, I don't think we have a joint meeting with Sioux Falls here in March, but we will have one in April. So we'll get that on everyone's calendars. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other liaison reports. Non-action commission discussion. All right, we do have an executive session, so I'd look for a motion for us to enter into executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 125.2, 134, and 6.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We will go into executive session next door. Thank you, everybody.